Hello guys, this is Jerry speaking. Welcome to LJPCBM React, episode number 547. And today we react to Purple Roads, episode number 32. Bob Singleton of, who's a musical director of Barney Friends at the time, and the original Barney the Backyard game from 1988 to 1991. So let's react to this. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm Carrie Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour, and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show, Barney and Friends. Now my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carrie Stinson, and this is Purple Roads.
Wow.
Welcome to another episode of Purple Roads. I'm Carrie Stinson, and I am thrilled that you're here this week. We're going to the music world with music director Bob Singleton of this little show called Barney and Friends. Bob, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's a hot time in Texas, but I'm in a cool place, so that's where you want to be.
Yeah, you know, it's so much fun. I talk about on this show all the time about being a Texan in Texas, and we're both in Texas this week.
Yes. Yeah.
So you were around from the beginning, from the early days.
Yes. When Barney started out, they did 3 original home videos with Sandy Duncan. And the guy who owned all of Color Dynamics and all that stuff had come across some guy who did music, and he pitched him on doing the music, Stephen Bates, for the first 3. But he was from out of town, and so they called me to contract the musicians. Plus, I already had a standing group of kids who were studio singers.
Wow.
And so my studio kids did, stunt vocals for the on-camera kids. And so, yeah, I was talking to him from the very first episode. And then after that, he did the first 3, and those were done as a group. And then he moved back out to LA, and I moved into the music director job after that.
Wow.
So this was the Backyard Gang.
Yes, it started off with the Backyard Gang, Sandy Duncan, then moved into some more home videos that didn't have Sandy Duncan, and Barney kind of changed. The character changed. My children called that first Barney the mean Barney, because he was big and slow and kind of blocky and blue. But that was a great thing that the people who worked on him had a great love for who they were doing it for, and they paid attention to stuff like that, and they made him friendlier and warmer, and everybody who was involved just had this love of children that made it so that it always grew closer to kids instead of farther away, for that time.
Yeah, there's so many places I want to go, and I'm curious, when you were working on those first days, early days, that would have been like, what, 88, I think?
89, yeah.
Did you have any idea what this was going to turn into?
Oh no, nobody had that. I mean, the whole kids video market was nearly non-existent. There was We Sing had done some stuff, but really, you could not.
As far as wasting is concerned, yeah, that's another video I plan on doing coming up next on the Boring Jokester. Yeah, as part of Bob's Show Reviews, which I've been part of as executive producer of Bob's Show, but then all of a sudden he kicked me out as Bob's Show in 2017, which is the worst part of my life. And now I'm back at his Bob's Show, which I will be explaining more in a little bit, but that's just me. Let's continue on.
Make it from home video if you started in home video. At least that was the thinking at the time. I mean, nobody was a video only project. It was like we felt very brave, and we just went, well, probably won't go far, but dang, we had fun doing this one, didn't you? Yeah, I did. It was good. I said, no, we had no idea. No idea.
So had you worked on children's music before?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I was a kids music guy.
Oh, okay.
I had a standing group of kid singers in the studio. 5 or 6 kids that I regularly used on everything from Sunday school curriculum to public school curriculum to TV commercials.
Hold on. Bless you. I heard you sneeze. Continue on.
And I was doing commercial production, but I loved hanging out with kids. I mean, I'd done albums and things, and I really loved, and I still do love being in the kids' music space. It was very fulfilling. So when they, put out the call for a new music director, and they called me, I was like, man, I've done this before.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to it. This is the kind of stuff I love.
It's interesting because we talk about this on the show a lot. A lot of us weren't in kids entertainment. I was not a kids performer beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the people that have been on the show are that way, but then they absolutely fall in love with it, and it's so rewarding.
Oh yeah.
What was the experience for you that kind of locked you in and realized what you were doing was so important with kids entertainment?
Well, it's a good news, bad news thing. Being in music, typically it's me and a few people in a recording studio.
Wow.
And we do the thing, and we send in the music, and we get a check, and that's it.
Wow.
But there were moments where you get feedback, and you hear that it's actually impacting children, and that it's making a difference. And those were the times that I went, oh, I love this, and it changed me. When I work with kids, and you know this, kids are brutally honest.
Yes.
Wow.
Compared to adults, an adult will go, "You were marvelous. I just love you. Let's do this again sometime," and you never hear from them.
Right.
But kids, you play the thing for them, and they're like, "Can we ride bikes? I want to go." And they will. You get instant feedback, but that also means that when you connect, you see that connection, and you understand that connection. You can see it. So, although I've done some adult projects and stuff like that, that's fun. Doing kid stuff. Understanding when it connects with kids just makes all the difference. And that was something that they did with Barney. Was they did a lot of market research. Once they got past the backyard gang and further on into the backyard gang, I mean, they were doing focus groups with kids before they hit PBS, and knowing
Wow.
What worked and what different, what didn't.
Right.
And here's a key difference. I'd already been working in kids music for quite a while, and with some major recording labels and minor stuff, and almost to a person, to a project, it was always, well, we've got to sell it to a parent first, and if we get the parent, then they'll probably pass it on to the kid. Well, when we worked on Barney, that was flipped on its head. It was, you connect with that kid. If the kid likes it, the kid wants it, they'll demand it, they'll pull it. So you do it for the kid. You don't do it for the record company executive or for some random grown-up that you imagine. You get a child in mind. You do it for that kid, and you make that connection, and that makes everything else work. And that was wonderful. That was cold water in the desert, man. That was awesome.
It's so true. It's so true. I did sing-alongs with Barney for over 10 years.
Yeah.
It's just Barney the music. And those kids, just every movement and every aspect, they knew every song.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you would see it you know, when the kids reacted to it, then their parents understood it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
now I get what it is
Yeah.
about this purple dinosaur.
Yeah.
It's amazing how important the music was.
Well, what a
It was
privilege
funny.
for you to get to see that. We would see that at times. You know, we'd hear about it in focus groups. Then we'd see, you know, some of the meet and greets, and there was the early shows and stuff like that. But boy, when we did Majestic Theater and we did Radio City, you know, to actually see it, we'd heard about it. That was a big thing. There was a lot of theory that went into that. You know, people, grown-ups, you know, a lot of them threatened our lives and wanted to run from the room screaming, but the music wasn't made for them. The music was made
Right.
for a kid. And the way kids understand and access music is they can drink from a fire hose.
Right.
Wow.
Grown-ups go, I'd like some Yanni. I'd like, I'd like something where I hear a nice melody. Well, kids, I would have more note events. You know, my computers could actually understand how many notes and everything was going on. I would have 5, 6 times as many note events in a Barney song that's a minute and a half long as I would have in a 4-minute adult. And that's because kids, they're pulling all that stuff in, man. They're multi-sensory.
Wow.
They're hearing all those rhythms. They're hearing all that bouncy stuff in the background, and they're drinking it in. The parents are going, "That's too much. I can't cope." But the
Oh my
kids,
God.
they connected with that, and they we wanted to get them out of their seats, and the way that we did that was feed them through a fire hose, man.
Wow.
They can take it.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that too, because they knew every aspect of those songs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're performing them and every little detail comes out, they know every one of them.
Wow.
So, you know, you talked about the choir, the kids choir, and I don't think everyone that watches this, you know, we talk a lot about the behind the scenes, understands that these songs were recorded, and a lot of times the kids, you had a kids choir.
Yeah.
That added
And
to the recordings to the songs.
yeah, what we did was, if there was 1 or 2 on-camera people singing, that would really be them. We would come in and we would pre-record it, and they would lip sync to that. But as soon as there was 3 or more, which you know, there was only these random times when a kid would have a kind of a step out solo, and then the rest was a group of studio kids, and there was a lot of planning and thought that went into that, because kids love to sing with kids,
Right.
and so we had the octave that we put the music in was a very specific one that kids can actually sing, so they weren't screeching and they weren't croaking, you know, down there, and they could sound actually like kids, and it was real easy for them to join in. And as you hear other kids singing, you know, as kids hear other kids singing, then it's very easy for them to join in, and we wanted it to be interactive. We wanted them singing along and jumping and all that stuff.
And so from the beginning, that was the goal.
Yeah, and we achieved that. You know, we improved that during those backyard gang shows. That was that was our proving ground. So that by the time we hit PBS, the music was pretty much figured out. There was a lot we had to figure out to do a network show.
Right.
That was, I mean, the very first production meeting, where we had, you know, a PBS representative sitting in the room, and we had the director, and we had, you know, the Penny Wilson, you know, choreographer and writers and everybody. And There's like 20 people around the table, and we said, you know, we opened the first page of script. There was a lot we had to learn about, you know, hitting 26 and a half minutes exactly, about, you know, there was a lot of theory that went into those first shows. For instance, there were no dissolves. which dissolve for you people out there is where you kind of go from one, they go, and now let's go home.
Right.
Well, you don't show them trotting or anything like that.
Right.
You cheat. You have a dissolve.
Wow.
This scene fades and this one comes in. A 3-year-old doesn't know that that's what that means.
Right.
They don't get that. So for the first few years, we didn't have any dissolves. In other words, if they went to the next room and didn't have their backpack in the next room, we couldn't just say, well, we dissolve and they lose it somewhere. No, we actually had to set it down and we had to walk into the room. We had to think through things like, okay, when we go to imagination, do we have everything? If they're on a pirate ship, or is it just, can we do that with just somebody has a pirate hat and something that looks like a pirate steering wheel? Or do we have to go full on? I mean, we had those first couple of production meetings, there was a lot of pizza and long hours while we worked that stuff out.
Right.
But there was a lot that was already in place by that time because of those home videos.
Did you change musically from the home videos to Barney and Friends?
Not so much, other than the production schedule changed. The music, we pretty much figured out how busy it was going to be. We kind of went. We kind of identified. Yeah, we're gonna have wall-to-wall music.
Right.
There just wasn't a moment that there wasn't music, and that's because we wanted to make sure that everything that was said, was friendly and warm, and kids knew what to think about what was going on. So it was wall-to-wall music. But when we moved into production, we did those first 30 episodes. At any given, day during the production week, I was working on 6 different shows at the same time. Either script development, pre-production, with the script, pre-production in the studio, post-production, scoring. I was at 6 different shows.
Wow.
And that was different. we weren't really. There was a lot that we learned in that first series of shows. I took a lot of Advil, drank a lot of coffee, and ate a lot of M&Ms to stay up and get it done. It was interesting times.
Well, I mean, it's funny. I still get today. People think that the show was done in New York or done in LA.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's such an important aspect. Obviously, I love the Texas aspect of this. And this was out in Allen, Texas. So there was not much in Allen back in those days.
No, there wasn't. I mean, we when we went, we had catering because there wasn't. We were excited when a Dairy Queen showed up half a mile away. Because there wasn't anything out there. It really wasn't.
Oh my!
At that point in time.
Because I can't wait to get to some of the live stuff. But when did you realize that the music was so important with this show? When did you realize that the kids were really reacting to these songs?
We did the first live thing that had some of the pre-recorded stuff was, I think, at a library in Allen. And I went to that, and that was when we were doing the Backyard Game, and it was mostly songs. And already, I mean, kids were connecting with it, and we knew that the producers really had a strong interest in making it very music driven. But it was seeing kids, in the flesh, responded to the music that really sank it in for me. Plus, I had friends, who had the videos and their kids responded to it, and they would tell me about it and that sort of thing. And so there was both that seeing that live thing, but intellectually we knew that was, that was part of the plan. But we had no idea of the scope of the impact of that. That was a revelation.
And so when did some of these songs come in? You know, it's funny, I did Mr. Knickerbocker and a lot of these Raindrop, for a long, and obviously
Sure.
the I Love You song. When did these songs come in, and when did you start seeing the kids were responding to some specific songs?
Very early on in those home videos, after the Sandy Duncan ones where I got involved, I didn't do that in a vacuum. I mean, I would. Okay, I'm a bad dad. I'd go pull my kid out of bed at 10 o'clock, at night, and go, can you please sing the song? Just tell me, and they were my focus group, when I was composing. I had real on-site, things. And then, I'd play that for other kids. I had, my kids' chorus. They responded to it. They had brothers and sisters that would come to the sessions. And at that point, as we built up the complexity, and the videos were so music driven, we started hearing, the responses, and so did the producers.
Wow.
That was one thing that I think you talked to Larry Rifkin. I talked to Larry at the end of the first series, and he said, "Yeah, the music, that's we get the strongest response from people about the music," and I'd like to go, well, thank you very much.
Right.
But it really, what was strong about it was that it was given a framework to do that. Barney was an engaging character who was very musical. He was very actively musical.
Yes.
And the kids responded to that, and they saw, peer age, a little older, responding to it, and it was, kids are musical. They really are from birth. I mean, and so they, from the producers all the way down, it was given a priority, and it was allowed to make those connections.
So I'm going to go back a little bit before I go forward.
Okay.
So, what got you? Kind of how your career started. Before Barney and Friends and Backyard Gang. What got you music?
Well, I was, I was in music when I was a kid. I mean, somebody dropped an accordion in my lap when I was like 7 years old, and I had a great time. I enjoyed it, and so I was in an environment. My family, they weren't musicians, but everybody interacted with music. My mom and my dad played records, and they gave us records, and we had our own record player to listen to. And I was involved in school music, and so by the time I was ready to go to college, I was like, that's this music thing. I think I like that. So I grew up in California, Northern California, and I came all the way out to Texas because it was the second largest music school in the U.S. It was doing a lot of things that I really liked and wanted to do musically. It had a jazz program, it had a classical program, and all this. So I studied music composition and played gigs, in order to survive.
Right.
Spending money. I learned how to play country. That was a revelation. And it was great because, I come in and I'm going like, hey, I'm the jazz guy, and I can talk to you about Shostakovich. Would you like to talk about that? And then they'd say, go, no, actually, we're going to play a VFW out in White Settlement, or someplace. And I'd go, and here was this was such a revelation. You'd see a 6-year-old kid dancing with his 80-year-old grandmother, and they're liking the same music, and I'm playing along going, wait, what just happened? There was something musically just happened. So it was really good. I got this really broad based education, and I didn't have to play favorites. I didn't have to be, well, you're the classical guy, or you the, and so I learned that music could affect all sorts of people, all sorts of ways. So after I graduated, I moved into studio work. I was good with the technical side, but I would get hired on the technical side as an engineer because I could read a score. And Dallas was a big jingle town, man. It was cranking out stuff for all over the world. And the thing about jingles is you get that recorded in under an hour, because you break an hour, it's another segment, and we're have to pay it. So I could lay out all the music, do all the things and move things along quickly, and producers love that. But it also meant that I got to read these incredible scores, and these guys would let me take them home and stuff. So anyway, I got into studio work, and I was having a lot of fun with that. Well, one day I'm coming home from church, and my kids, one of my daughters, she's like 4 years old, is singing a song in the back seat, and I've never heard it, but she is really into it, and I'm thinking, wow, that music is really impacting. I got to find out more about this. So I started getting into kids and singing, and and how they do it, and then I started to understand it. All that training actually kicked in, and so I got into doing kids music. I met people who did everything from Sunday school curriculum to television commercials who needed kids and stuff. And I kind of got known as the local kids guy. I had a group of studio professional kids that I would audition. I'd get them when they were about 7 years old, and then they'd get braces and their voices would drop, and I'd have to replace them. It was terrible and wonderful all at the same time. And so I just loved doing that stuff. And when Barney came around, it was at that point in time, I'd been doing that stuff. What was really different about Barney was that thing of, this was a group of people who loved children, who really loved children, and wasn't just, I love the money that the parents are going to kick out for this, but their first priority was kids all the way. Boy, that made all the difference.
I love that you say that, because one of the reasons I started this show is because fans are they love these shows, and they love what you hear from all the time. And I always wanted them to understand we loved it as much. And we weren't out there just taking a paycheck. I understand at 23 years old that this was not just a job. This was not someone in a costume. This was important. And what we were doing was doing something really important. And when I got later in years, when I got on the Barney show, on Barney and Friends, but I saw it from the beginning. The crew, every aspect of this, every member was in love with what we were doing, and it was important, and all the details were important from
yeah. I was instructed, get a child in mind, and do your job for that child.
Wow.
And I had 2 or 3 because I had, my own children. But it was I wasn't doing it for some studio executive somewhere. I wasn't doing it for the comptroller of the company. I was doing it for a child, and that came from the top and worked its way down. I mean, like you said, the floor manager on the set would make sure that it was a kid-friendly environment because we cared about the kids.
Yeah, it's really true, and I love that, because we weren't also doing it for anyone else. Like we weren't doing it for anyone else. We were just doing it for this audience of kids that loved it, and so we weren't worried about what Hollywood thought or what New York thought or anyone. We were just doing, and we didn't care. We were just doing this. We knew this was special, and amazing. So I want to talk about the live stuff.
Okay.
We'll get to Radio City because I was there.
Mhm.
But I want to talk about Majestic. That I was doing birthday parties back then for Barney. But that was the first big live appearance for Barney. Was the Majestic Theater in Dallas,
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that like?
Well, at first it was just, among the production group, it was, I kind of got the sense, well, we're gonna play a bunch of songs, and we're gonna put a bunch of kids in the theater.
Right.
Wow.
But the gestalt of the people, it's never gonna be that way because we love the kids so much, and by that time we love the property. So it turned into a very interesting thing. We introduced Baby Bop.
Yes.
That was a big thing.
Yeah.
We got David Joyner. We got a new guy in the suit.
Yes.
David Voss had been wonderful,
Right.
but we had that. We were, we had done a lot of things in post production, but doing it live,
Right.
that's a different thing.
Yeah.
You've got to get everybody to go together, and so as we went along, I mean the kind of the excitement and the fear and the anticipation grew, and then when they put tickets on sale and they went we're gone, and we had people go, calling, hey Bob, can you hook me up, and everybody's doing that sort of a thing.
Right.
We'd seen a few things. We'd seen like Neiman Marcus had done a thing at North Park, a meet and greet,
Wow.
and 5,000 people showed up with no, real promotion, stuff like that. So by the time we got to the Majestic, we're going, well, this is kind of the real deal.
Right.
And there was a lot of stuff that went on, because it was a live thing, rehearsals, planning, working with union stagehands, everybody, even the stagehands, who'd never worked with the program before.
Right.
There was a sense of excitement. And I was in the TV truck firing some music and effects. I was on what they call the third bench. I was back there watching all the cameras and seeing all this stuff. And the buzz just in the truck that we're picking up from, the ambience mics, it's pretty exciting. We're kind of looking at each other and going, I've done network television before, but it never really felt like this.
Right.
And when we did the fanfare and David jumped out and did a 360 and landed, which we'd never seen before, and the crowd just went, usually you don't sense that on a screen and speakers, but I'll tell you, everybody in the truck kind of went, whoa. And we made it through the show, and it was eye-opening. Because there was all these TV professionals.
Right.
We've done everything from national sports to network parades and entertainment things. We network professionals. But that was an eye-opener. That was a real eye-opener.
So what changed music-wise? What do you do different from a recorded show to doing a live show? Picking the songs, picking all the music, everything involved with that. Do you always try and keep it more upbeat? Do you figure out when you can go with a little slower song? And how did that all go?
Well, that's a really interesting, really interesting question, because the show had to be incredibly collaborative. I'd worked on shows where I'd created music for like live musicals. My brother was a producing director out on the West Coast and that sort of thing. So I understood how those things go. But we had, we had specific objectives, and so we worked with the writers and the producers, and there was this really tight knit kind of, we all, it was like that scene at the end of Mary Tyler Moore where everybody's hugging each
Right.
other.
Wow.
Okay, it was like that. We really kind of clung to each other and tried to make sure that everybody was rowing in the same direction. Um, you do want to keep the energy up in a live show in a way that you don't always do it with the home videos,
Right.
and so the timing for interconnecting music, the interstitial stuff, and how you set up going into it. It's a notch up. I mean, you did a lot of live shows, and
I did.
Joe killed on that stuff, and it was an exercise in energy. We kept the energy up on the home videos, but just in the room we could go cut.
Right.
Okay, back up, and we'll do that. And Bob, when you do the post music, be sure to keep the energy up on this. Okay.
Right.
Wow.
Not so much the live show. But it was there. It was on the stage, or it wasn't there at all.
So we go off to New York, which we talk about that show a lot. I mean, it was a pretty unbelievable experience going to Radio City
Oh,
and doing
Wow.
shows and everything that was involved in that. It's really an amazing show.
mm-hmm.
Well, there's so many places I want to go with this, but let's just start with going there. What was it like for you being involved with this big show at Radio City?
Well, it's hard to wrap our mind around it.
Yeah.
One of the things was we were going so hard and so fast
Mhm.
at that point anyway. We had the PBS show going on, and we were releasing home videos, and all this stuff was going on, and I got nominated for the Grammy for the Barney music, and
Wow.
there was just a lot going on.
Right.
So when you're running that fast,
Yeah.
you kind of see a lot of stuff in hindsight. For
Right.
instance, we were told that the show sold out faster than any other show in the history of Radio City, that we were just behind U2.
Wow.
U2 had sold more seats in a little bit less time. But we, and you look back, this was before the internet. People
Oh,
were
yeah.
like, hello, can I have tickets to Barney? They
Yeah.
sold out in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And so, and at that time, we're kind of going, what?
45 minutes
Well,
for 12 shows.
For 12 shows.
Yeah, not
Yes.
one show, 12 shows.
5,000 people per show,
Right.
sitting in there. And so that's one of those things that somebody says that and you go, okay, great. And then you look back at it and you go, wait a minute, that was pretty good. There was a lot to be done in a very short time.
wow.
It was very hectic. We had a lot to do. Steve did this amazing job. Steve White did an amazing
Right.
job on the script. Basically, okay, we're there in February, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. Somewhere
March.
around because it was
Yeah.
the Grammys was happening.
Yeah, right.
Like
Yeah.
right before us was happening.
Oh yeah, I've got some stories about that. But it was, and Steve, didn't have a script back when they were doing the Christmas extravaganza in December. So he had to get a script together and all this stuff. It was really intriguing. There was a lot of drama around it, but again, we were going so fast and so hard that we didn't catch a lot of it. Here's an interesting little story.
Okay.
Couple of them. The Grammys were right before that.
Yes.
Okay. And they had the stages at Radio City that move in. There's this 75-foot pit or something like
Right.
that. A worker was killed at the Grammys.
I did not know that.
So this is the show previous to us. Someone had died falling in the pit.
Wow.
that kind of puts a damper on how you want to work on things, you know.
Right.
And so there was a lot of people that were going, oh well, this is going to be tough.
Right.
On top of that, the semis pull up after the Grammys load out,
Right.
and I'm sitting in the audience in the chamber there, getting ready to see things loaded in because I had an entire MIDI studio that was going to be installed downstairs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There was a labor blow up.
And I remember
Wow.
this. I remember this very well.
I was sitting behind Dennis DeShazer, the producer,
Yeah.
Wow.
and the the stagehands and everybody who worked for Radio City are having a labor blow up with the ownership of Radio City.
Right. Not about us, by the way.
Not about us. No,
yeah,
no,
nothing to do with us.
And that was the amazing thing. We were a little trepidatious coming in there because these guys, they just did the Grammys and now we're gonna do Barney. Well,
right.
We're sitting there watching this management representative versus the labor representatives, on stage. Our trucks are idling out in the alley,
Right.
Yeah.
and this is going on, and we think, man, this show may not happen.
Right.
Wow.
And I mean, we were really going, well, I had a lovely time, but we may not have a show at all.
Right.
And
Wow.
the wonderful thing, those New York stagehands finally went, okay, look, these people with Barney are not a part of this. We are going to do their show. We're going to do it really well. And we're going to deal with the management
Wow.
in another place at another time. And man, once that happened, I have never seen a load in like that. I've never seen those guys and gals they were excellent, man. They were really true professionals. We got a show going. They had a 24-hour turnaround, and they did it. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I remember a lot of that. It was crazy because, this was like my second time in New York ever, and I never worked with Union and all of that, and it was funny, right? Because here's the polite Texans coming in with these strong New Yorkers, but we did find this wonderful balance, and they were really amazing.
Oh yeah, it was. And then the show itself was just striking. I mean, the amount of I don't know how to quantify energy, but there was this energy from the audience. There was such love and attention, and we were doing songs they knew, and they engaged in it, and it was a remarkable experience. I didn't get to stay for the whole run. I left my assistant music director there, who's running all this stuff, and I envied him. I was like, Larry, maybe you should go back and do the thing.
Wow.
This is amazing. This is awesome. Ran into Leonard Maltin.
Oh wow.
Well, at the Carnegie Deli, and I'm wearing my Barney jacket, and he goes, "Hey, Barney!" And he had given like really good reviews of Barney, and he was impressed. And I'm going, "Really? You're Leonard Maltin?" And wow, that's special.
Yeah, I had that experience because I got to meet and greets with John Travolta at that time.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
And the same thing, and I've talked about this before. I started realizing right then that celebrities are also parents.
Yeah.
And as cool as it was, as I'm sitting there hugging John Travolta was so excited because his kid was getting to see Barney.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, this purple dinosaur is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing in the reaction. And most people don't realize that we actually never did a full run through.
Yes, we never finished the rehearsal.
Never finished a rehearsal. First time we went all the way through was live in show one.
Yeah, I will tell you this. There was one thing that over the years that has touched me more than anything, we were canceled at the end of the first season.
Right.
We came back the second season,
Wow.
and we had a crew meeting, and it was like a luncheon crew meeting, and basically it said, "Remember how hard you worked? Well, forget about it. It's going to be harder." So here's a burger, eat it.
Yeah.
But they told us some things that had happened in the meantime, and one of the things that had happened was the first World Trade Center bombing.
Wow.
And that was a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Somebody set off a bomb underneath it, and it turned off the electricity, closed the elevators, shut down the elevators, and there was an elevator full of preschool kids, and they sang "I Love You" to get through.
Yeah.
And that was like,
Yeah.
our song is what got kids through a bomb.
Yeah, I have talked about the magic of that song in itself. I have seen things, you would believe because you were around, but people wouldn't believe of the power of that song in hospitals with Make-A-Wish kids, with burn unit kids that just don't even realize their situation. They just see Barney and they have to sing the song, and it's been interesting, over the years we all get questions. I always, obviously everyone asked me if the costume was hot, but they also asked me if I got tired of that song, and I said, "Are you kidding me?" The power of that song is it's incredible.
Still.
And one of the things that we really held on to in production was that age kids, that they need two things, in preschoolers. They need to know that they're loved and that they're safe. And so many things that are sent, that are given to kids have villains and bad guys, and they're not safe, and they aren't loved. And Barney loved them. They were part of a family, and that was, we talk about the Barney magic, but it's really just true that kids want to be loved and feel safe, and we did that. I mean, they could that costume without the persona of Barney would scare me like a murderous clown. It's so big and so cumbersome, but when we attach the personality and the love and the safety to it, all of a sudden, kids are ready to hug.
Yeah, and I love that you're saying that, because it really was, obviously the character, and then the music, and then all of those things brought that to our audience. Over the years, I saw so many different kids, right? Kids that are shy, kids that are having a hard time getting out of their own skin. I mean, I had been told many times from doing this show, the first time I heard "I Love You," or I learned about love, was from Barney.
Wow.
And to this day, if I need to feel loved or I just need to feel good, I'll sing the "I Love You" song.
Wow.
And I think it's such a beautiful thing that they're not, they're not scared to tell you that.
Yeah.
They have been able, and they said, I'm not a kid anymore, but boy, that purple dinosaur really taught me a lot.
Yeah.
The world could use a lot of that right now.
Well, yeah, and we talk about that because that's what we for us, the message hasn't changed. It's the same message you were talking back in '89.
Well, and it's the same one that Fred Rogers had, and Fred and what he did, both with content and with the music, is one of my very biggest heroes. I mean, the guys, John Costa and the guys that he assembled for the music, and the way they did that, and what Fred presented, he was a giant. And I look back on, on how they did it. They did that live. I mean, John Costa was over there, and Fred's doing his thing, and John's over here going, watching and playing live. You know, I would spend the day, you know, fast winding, slow winding, counting frames,
Sure.
punching things in, and John Costa's just like, oh, I could watch this kid. You know, he was amazing. Those guys.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because really, all of these shows, these kids shows that have done so well, it's music.
Well, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I really think that every kid is born musical, and what the research shows is even the parents are musical. I mean, when that little baby comes out, what do? They go up to the baby and they go, "You are just the cutest little thing. We're gonna do
Right.
and they do all these musical things and they don't even know it. And you go to, you know, into the jungles of Borneo or West Africa or Europe or wherever, and that's how we interact with children, and it just lights up their brain, and it stimulates stuff, and it takes them all sorts of places, and it teaches them impulse control and all these things, and it also uh, puts an order to the universe that they don't have, and it's musical that does it. It's the musicality of it and the way that there's movement that can be attached to it, and it's a multi-sensory thing. It isn't just, oh, I'm hearing something here. No, it's your body's moving, you're using your voice. I mean, it's so intensely multi-sensory, and that's a kid, man. You wrap them up and you know, poke them, and multi-sensory comes pouring out.
Wow.
So I've got a couple questions for you
Okay.
before we finish up that I'm curious about. Um, First of all, do you have a favorite song that you composed? We'll keep it in the Barney world. Do you have a favorite Barney song that you wrote?
Mm, that's a tough one. They all went by so fast, and we moved right on to the next one. I we did S'mores was fun, and we did the Three Bears rap, and that was
Wow.
that was a lot of fun. And those were backyard gang stuff. But I'll tell you, before we get to your next question, Phil Parker wrote a lot of the original songs early on, and then we got some more, you know, with Angela and Natalie and some of the other guys who were just marvelous writers. Well, Phil was Kathy Parker's husband, and I have to tell you, it's a little frightening when they go, "Oh, the producer's husband, he's a good writer. You're gonna like his stuff." Because I'd had so many experiences where, you know, with ad agencies, yeah, my sister-in-law, she writes really good lyrics.
Right.
And it was terrible. Phil did a great job. So that whole relationship worked out very well. They got very good songwriters as they went along.
What inspiration do you use? How do you start with a song, writing a song?
That's I start writing. You know, as my profession is, I'm a composer, and I don't wait for inspiration. I know what it is I'm working on. I have an end in mind, and I start writing. It used to be when I first started out, I'd do an idea, you know, start a lyric, do something, throw it away. No, throw it away. Well, I learned that really I didn't have better ideas after I threw the first two away. But if I worked on the ideas, I could get them into shape better. So I start with just doing the song. I just sit down and there's a blank sheet of paper in my mind, and if I have a lyric, that's great. If I don't have a lyric, I know where I'm going with it. So that's the process. There's not a real process. It's just get her done.
Wow.
Was there a scene or a subject somewhere you had to come up with a song that you struggled?
I never had time to struggle. I really didn't. You know, basically, you know, I talked about we had six shows in various stages of production, I was doing a show a week, and I did have Larry Herring help me with arrangements. Another friend of mine who's a Grammy Award-winning kids writer lived in Houston at the time. Fletch Wiley would help me with arrangements, but I'd get these MIDI files in from their arrangements, kind of barnify them and stuff like that. And basically in 6 days, I'd have a show. And so we didn't really have a whole lot of time to agonize whether we were writing an original thing, adapting something else. Right. We just didn't have. I didn't have that luxury. That would have been nice. Who do I talk to? I want that.
Well, that's just the way the business goes.
It is.
Yeah.
Was there a favorite episode you worked on?
I'll tell you, the NBC special, musically, was one of was.
And this is Imagination Island.
Yes, Imagination Island. That was a lot of fun because I got to work with live instrumentals and I got to spend some more time, and it had a little bit more dramatic range. Although I never really wanted to take, you don't want to take little kids into scary things.
Wow.
But I was able to stretch out on it a little bit more. Everything that we did before that was basically kind of Spike Jones,
Yeah.
You had, it was little, I was highlighting and, doing this and little snippets, Warner Brothers cartoons, although it wasn't Carl Stalling stuff, but it was little episodes that I did. And for that, I was able to do a little bit longer stuff. But I'll tell you, it was a joy doing every show. I mean, at the end of it, when we got to, the final "I Love You," it was like, and I'd done all the score. It was just so satisfying. So satisfying.
Wow.
So, what would you? I guess if you sum up your experience with Barney and Friends, and look back at it,
it was an amazing amount of work with people who really loved what they were doing and who they were doing it for.
I think that sums it up really well.
It's I don't know how we could recreate that again. That really was this lightning in a bottle thing, before cable TV
right.
and a bunch of those outer things. That'll never happen. But the people that came together from the very first shows were all really stellar. Bob West and Julie Johnson and Patty Wirtz and Steve White and the directors and these camera guys who threw in, hey, I can do this, and the kids were wonderful. I just don't know how you would capture that again. It was amazing to do it. Just amazing.
Yeah. Well, Bob, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I get a lot of comments about you and the music and the importance from people, and I'm thrilled that you were able to come on today and talk about this wonderful experience.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's there's so much good to remember about that, and remind ourselves that we can love each other, and we can help each other feel safe, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Bob.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for watching Purple Roads. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your Purple Road. We'll see you next week.
So that was Purple Roads, episode 32. Bob Singleton. What do I think about this episode? It was amazing. So far this episode, want it to be a success. Anyways, guys, that wraps up LJPCBM Reacts episode number, let's say 547. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one. It's gonna be episode 33. Kelly Crawford, High Five. Till next time, so Jones, goodbye, peace out, baby. We get more to react, guys, very soon. Till then, jump out. See ya.
the time I failed to really understand it. I never sought to meet the maker of reality, the one who gave the life that which is always happening. But I tried all the time. Why was I the one to see things as I do under the moonlight and the sun? Perception is the question, and the giver holds the key.